Hey YouTube, welcome to the channel. My name is Rich. The name of the channel is Rich the Return Rider. For all you guys that's here for the first time, thanks for tuning in. For all of you folks that are return viewers, I appreciate you coming back. For all of you that subscribe to the channel, appreciate the support. For the folks that haven't yet subscribed, guys, hit that subscribe button so we can continue to make some of this content. So today we are here. We are in Lake City, Florida. And we are going to be out cruising the back roads of Lake City. It is about 63 degrees today. I am on the 2012 Suzuki Boulevard M109R Susie. Susie's been feeling a little neglected since I've been out riding the Honda. I gotta tell you folks, like I said, the temperature's in the 60s. I hope for any of you folks up north that's not experiencing riding weather, you can live vicariously through me. But what we're going to be talking about today, guys, is performance, power. And why is it that we have to have all the performance and power that we can afford or that we can have? I recently visited Harley Davidson in Crystal River. And met the most interesting character there, 84-year-old with a street glide, 117 with a stage 3 kit in it. 84 years old, man, and the thing that this guy was so proud of, as he's given me stories about riding for years longer than I've been alive, is all the performance that he have in his motorcycle. And when he reach over and he cranked that puppy up, all you can hear is the cams that's in that motorcycle, almost like a big block getting ready to go down a quarter-mile strip. But the thing that I remember most about that day was the grin, the smile that he had on his face. Absolutely priceless. But I came away from there thinking, what is it, or why is it that we have to have all the performance, the power? For all of you guys out there riding the Indians, the Chieftains, the Dark Horse, the Challengers with your Lloyd's tune, the Harley Davidson guys with the different stage kits and they 117s and they 114 Milwaukee 8s. These motorcycles come with so much power, but we have opted to have a little bit more power than the manufacturers designed the motorcycle with. Suzuki Boulevard M109R got 128 horsepower with 118 foot-pounds of torque. There's nothing I want to do more with this motorcycle than put the power commander back on it, do some kind of a tune. I justify saying that because I rode one that rode a lot smoother. Leave it in the comment section below, guys, if that's accurate. It seemed like with a tune on this motorcycle, it don't feel as choppy. But I remember the first time I rode this motorcycle, guys, and I rolled on the throttle. All I remember was the grin that was on my face. Now, I got to tell you, folks, I don't know if it's for bragging rights, is ego involving, or whatever it is. I'm going to blame mine on genetics. It's in my DNA, or it's learned or taught behavior. For folks that knew my dad, affectionately known as Hopi, this guy was a small man with a big presence. When my dad walked into the room, everybody knew he was there. Known as the neighborhood's dad, believed in power and performance. Often preached that having power and performance could be life-saving. Being able to drop a gear and disappear when you need it. For folks that knew my father, they knew how much he liked talking about trucks and cars and so forth. Always bragged about the trucks he owned in the Caribbean, the performance and the power. Coming here to the U.S., he was always a big fan of two cars, referred to as a deuce and a quarter for you older folks that remember. The Buick Deuce and a Quarter, Electra 225, but decide that he will be getting something a little bit more classy, a little bit more luxurious, and settle on a 1974 Cadillac Coupe de Ville with a 472 engine in it. But my dad's saying was, if you want a horse or you like horsepower, you got to be able to feed him. He hated hearing folks complain about gas mileage and the price of gas. but they wanted the power. If you're going to complain about the gas and the gas mileage, then you don't need a horse, my friend. He always say you need a mule, a donkey, or a pony. The M109R, guys, is a horse. It's not just a horse, it's a thoroughbred. What you just saw me there at the gas station doing was putting some 93 octane in it. This horse doesn't just like grass and hay. It wants oats and a little bit of vitamins with it. 93 octane, premium, buddy. That's how we rolling with the Suzuki Boulevard M109R. But it is priceless when it comes to rolling on that throttle and feeling the power that this thing provides. I remember my older brother was looking for a car and my dad was on the search with him. And my brother started looking at the Dodge. He decided he wanted to own a Mopar Dodge. And he started looking at stuff called the Valiant at the time and the Dart that was 6 cylinders. My dad looked at him and he nodded his head. If you are looking for power and performance, guys, you're going to need a V8. How about a V8? Looking at the 318s, the 340s, end up purchasing a 1971 Dodge Charger SE. We knew out there also was the 426 and the 440s. That 426, if I'm not mistaken, might have been what they call the Hemi. Four boys, 4 girls is what my family consists of. I'm the last of the 4 boys. As my sister decided to get married and my brother-in-law came into the family, in this family, man, horsepower rules. Goes out and he purchased as a newlywed the first car that he can afford, which was a 1973 or so Chevy Vega. With all of his friends around him owning stuff like Buick Rivieras, GTOs, 340 Demons. But I gotta tell you folks, when it came to running around the Brooklyn, New York high traffic area, the skills that my brother-in-law possessed still always put him in the mix with those guys regardless of what they drove. Being an older guy and one that drove in the Caribbean on those little narrow roads and drove stick shift and so forth, he was well capable of keeping up with the guys with the higher horsepower. But he knew someday in the future he's going to have to resort to having a little bit more juice than he had out of a 70-something, 100 horsepower car. On this specific day we're talking about here, I remember my brother-in-law, we were heading to LaGuardia Airport. Don't quite remember what the task was at hand or what the mission was today. As we are leaving the Brooklyn area to head into Queens. For you folks that's familiar with this area, we are going through Bushwick. There's a road today, they refer to it as the Jackie Robinson Parkway. Back in those days it was called the Interboro Parkway. And this was our tail of the dragon, folks. A racetrack for these youngsters, man, to just show the skills that they exhibit as they are riding such a twisty and challenging, or they're driving such a twisty and challenging road. No one did it better than my brother-in-law. We are approaching Bushwick and we turn up into the Interboro. My brother-in-law pinned his foot to the floor as he looked over at me with a little smirk, as he always did when he was being funny or sarcastic. But to this day, he was disappointed that the power that he was looking for just wasn't there. As he got to the most challenging parts of this road, we used to call the white walls. You can often see all different kinds of colors and stuff like that on the walls of folks that just couldn't properly navigate these challenging turns. As they would say in the racing world, of folks that ran out of talent. Actually did pretty good time in running through this road on this day. At the end of the ride of the Interboro, when we thought all the challenge was over, the most interesting part of this day was about to happen. As he's exiting off of this Interboro Parkway, we're getting ready to go on the main road heading to LaGuardia Airport, the Grand Central. On the off-ramp merging onto the traffic, there was a little blind spot, making it a little harder to be able to see the traffic that's already on the thruway. There, I think my brother-in-law might have got it a little wrong as he's exiting onto the Grand Central. The traffic behind us seemed to be coming faster than I've ever noticed it. And as he put his right foot to the floor and he locked his hands on the steering wheel, all I remember feeling like is like a cowboy that was getting ready to be stampeded by a herd of cattle. as I'm bracing for these folks to run into the back of this little Chevy Vega, and I can see cars shunting around the side of me, and some of them probably braking a little harder behind us than they wanted to. We were lucky enough, or you should say by God's graces, we escaped that little escapade. I remember my brother-in-law looking down at me with a smirk on his face again, and he said, "Hey, that's why you never buy an underpowered vehicle, man. Truth of the matter is, you can drive a fast car slow, but you just can't drive a slow car fast." The sermon that my dad was always preaching. Of course, shortly after that, that little Chevy Vega was up for sale. He went from one extreme to the next. Got rid of the Chevy Vega, bought something called a Delta 88. Oldsmobile Delta 88 with a 455 rocket engine and a 300 plus horsepower. Somebody as skillful as my brother-in-law behind the wheel of that powerful car was something to see. But he always came back with that one thing that my dad never wanted to hear: how much gas it drank. He often joked that car always felt like it needed alignment. Every time he passed a gas station, if the gas station was to the right, the car pulled to the right. If the gas station was to the left, the car pulled to the left. The best one he gave, he said one day he left the job and he put his foot to the floor, and the old Delta 88 probably burnt rubber about 1/8 of a mile as he left his job. The next day, his co-worker, when he came into work, his co-worker asked, "What kind of mileage do you get in that beast out there that you drive?" I could only imagine the smirk on my brother-in-law's face as he said to him, "When you're driving a car with that kind of horsepower the way I drive it, you don't ask how many miles to the gallon, my friend. You ask how many gallons to the mile." But the thing that remained priceless is, if you ask my brother-in-law today that's in his 70s about that car, the Delta 88, the smile that was on that old man's face, the smile that was on my face when I rolled on the throttle of this boulevard, that same kind of smile still exists on my brother-in-law's face when he talks about that Delta 88. Guys, the performance in these vehicles it leaves a smile on your face that's priceless. So get your cams, get your stage kits, get your Lloyd's tunes, get your power commanders, folks. The only thing that I'm going to say, man, is if you want a horse, you got to learn to ride them. Do these advanced safety classes, guys, these low speed parking lot drills. All of the things that will make us the kind of cowboys that can properly ride this horse. Right? I don't care what you ride. At the end of the day, it's better that you drop your bike on the concourse or in a parking lot than to crash them out there on the streets. Rich, the return rider, out on the 2012 Suzuki Boulevard Susie. I'm out.